Hello, I'm Arthur. Welcome to my lab. I should have probably mentioned this in my previous video, but for those interested in trying to hook up your LCD display board to STM discovery board, here's the pinout on the discovery board. So the first pin is marked by a white dot on the board, and that's 3.3 volt connection. Then you have the clock connection, ground, TMS, reset, and SWD. We do not use this last pin for the connection to the LCD board. We only use the first 5. So basically you just connect wire from the discovery board to a corresponding pin on the LCD board. NRST goes to NRST, JTMS to JTMS, and so on. And that's all you need to do. You need 5 wires, hook up the 2 boards together, and you're good to go. You can use the STM programmer to change the flash on your board. Now let's get to the fun stuff.
I've powered on this defective display and then left it for a while powered on because I was busy doing something else, and so it's set for a while, and then amazingly it sat out with this booting screen on, right? It sat like that for a while, and eventually it actually came to its kind of regular screen. And I was hoping that it would do it immediately now, but now it's probably going to take a little bit of time to do this. But it came up with actually a regular screen like on a working display, but with some generic icons. So whatever I was doing may have unstuck the display, or maybe it just needed to be plugged in for a longer period than what I waited in the past, although I think I've waited pretty long in the past. So anyway, eventually the kind of menus came up, and so I started playing around, and I wanted to then use my SD card. Oh, here we go. I wanted to use my, see, this is actually this is supposed to be the menu. These bars here, white bars, these are like icons maybe. So I wanted to try updating firmware then using my SD card, and that didn't work. It's like, you know, no matter what I tried, updating the display wouldn't even recognize that there's a firmware on the SD card that I wanted it to load. So then I tried some other things. I tried just navigate through the menus, and when I went to print, see, I got this message, and sorry that it's upside down. Let me flip it. Actually, I should be able to flip it around here. So when I went to print menu, I got this message: no files found. And I know that there is a file on the SD card, which told me that there's a problem with a communication between the microcontroller and SD card. So I tested the pins on well, this is SPI flash memory, and that's connected with SD card, which also operates in SPI mode, and so both of these are connected to the CPU. And so I grabbed again my working board, and I compared the two, and I tested using my multimeter, and I found that on the defective board, the MISO pin, this pin right here, pin number 2, and also corresponding pin on the SD card, these are not connected to the CPU. I was getting tone when I tested this pin connection to the CPU on working card, and was not getting the tone when I was testing it on this card. So this tells me that there's a problem with the trace going from the CPU to this chip. And I tried a few things, and sure enough, there's a via here going on to one of the other layers of the board, and then there must be another via coming back to the top layer to connect the pin, and there's no connection. So there's probably something wrong with traces, vias, I don't know what. But yeah, I'm hoping that if I solder a wire going from the second pin here to the trace, I expose the trace here, and I tested that this trace now has connectivity to the chip. So I'm hoping that once I make this connection, my board will start working. So I'm going to give this a try. Alright, I saved you the ugly details of how I soldered this wire, but here it is. Here's the wire going from that exposed part of the trace to the second pin on the chip, and I think I'll have to tack it down with some hot glue just to be sure that it stays put. But yeah, the display came up, and this firmware, which is one of the firmwares that I tried, this firmware looks like this when it powers on. So actually, let me power the display off and on, and we'll see what happens, how it boots up, because I haven't seen this firmware before. So power off, power on, it's starting up. This is the same as my other display, and then it comes to this maker base splash screen, and it only has three options: tools, set, and print. Under tools you have heat, extrude, move. So that's kind of similar to the other display, similar layout, but the print button is missing. Print used to be here. And under more, two buttons. Yeah, so it's like the menus are rearranged. And then under set, you again have the menus that were available under set option before, and strangely enough this is version 2.0. So, and then under print, no files found. Actually, let me stick that SD card in. Print, sure enough, displays the content of SD card now. SD is working. So I'm going to reflash this with the firmware that I do like, and then we'll see how it works. I think actually maybe the firmware that I put on this card was the simplified version of it. So yeah, that's what happened. That trace somehow lost connectivity, and so putting that wire in made the display work. And I think I forgot to mention that this defective display is marked MKS TFT version 1.1, whereas the working display is marked version 2.0. I have no idea what the difference between the two versions is, because the layout of the parts on the PCB seems exactly the same. The traces seem exactly the same as far as I checked. I haven't checked all of the parts one by one, but they seem all the same. But anyway, I put a new firmware on the SD card. Let's power on the display and see what happens. It's updating the firmware. And now I went with the red style classic firmware. On the other display I think I have blue style, so just to see how the red style looks like. And again, programming pictures now. I wonder if you can just put the firmware on the SD card without the pictures, because the pictures come in a separate folder. I wonder if you could skip the pictures if you know that you already have the pictures that you want. So this takes a little bit, about a minute or so. Done. Reboots, and let's see what kind of menu. So here we go. This is the menu set that I'm used to. Print. Yeah, I can see my G-code file set about, yeah, still version 2.0. Okay. So yeah, looks like this display is functional. And actually, I don't really see much difference. Maybe I was using red, because I don't. The only thing that's red here are like the printer, this door in the house. So maybe I was using red firmware. Didn't even remember. Because I'm guessing that in blue version these are all blue printer, blue door, blue thermometer, so on. So this one looks exactly like my working board, and now it is a working board. So yay, I've resurrected this board. I thought it was going to be just a paperweight. So if your 3.2-inch MKS TFT display malfunctions, maybe that's what the problem is. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.